What's up, weirdos?
Hey, yo.
Me? Shit. I got me a little something rolled. The lights are low, and we're about to chop it up with Abigail on the Manic, Pixie, Weirdo podcast.
Okay.
A safe space for weirdos of all shapes, sizes, colors, and creeds to relax and speak their piece.
Speak that piece.
So grab your glass of wine and grass the chief as I get off the mic so the main weirdo can speak. Peace.
Peace, God.
What is up, weirdos? You're listening to the Manic Pixie Weirdo. I'm Abigail, your host, and this is the podcast where we talk about all the different kinds of relationships that we have in our lives. And this week, we're talking about my relationship with my ADHD. So I guess I'm just going to start at the beginning and go from there. So I very, very recently, like within the last year, got diagnosed with ADHD. Now, I had always kind of had my suspicions about, having ADHD. And I think, okay, so honesty time. My first clue that I had ADHD was actually when I was using drugs. And I needed something to help me, because my thing was downers. But I needed I had never tried uppers before, but I needed something to balance me out and get me back up. This was sort of just the experience that I had. And somebody gave me an Adderall, and I took it, and, it turned out that I was able to actually get stuff done. I didn't like the feeling, the physical feeling of it, because it made me very jittery. It made me very shaky. I don't know how much the milligram was, but probably much too high for what I needed, what I actually needed. And I was just very shaky, and I couldn't very restless, couldn't keep my body still, but I was very focused. Very able to focus on my things that I needed to get done, especially since I had a test that I needed to do really well on. And when it was all sort of over, I remember talking to my dealer, and my dealer was like, "Oh, you probably have ADHD. That's why you were able to focus." And because I was like, what is this? This is amazing. I didn't really care at that point, the physical body feeling. I just knew I didn't really like it, but I was able to sort of get over that part and more focus on the actual, what it did to me part, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't think that makes any sense. But that's just sort of, what happened. And I remember him being like, "Well, you probably have ADHD, because that's what it does for people with ADHD, is it helps you be able to focus and be able to do it." And I never really, I didn't really give it a lot of thought at that point. It was just kind of my first, nobody had ever told me that before. And I remember thinking, and this probably has a lot to do with how I was raised. And I even remember there was an incident where I said something to one of my parents, and I was like, "I think I have ADHD." I probably didn't say it that nicely. I most certainly did not say it that nicely. I think it was more of a demand, where it was "I have ADHD, and I need this." It was, I think, you know what? That's probably what it was. It was more of a, "Why are you acting like this?" kind of a thing. And I used it as an excuse. I was like, "I have ADHD." And I remember my parent being like, "No, you don't." like, you do not have ADHD, stop it with that. Like, and probably, and very rightly so, they said that, because I probably was acting, crazy or whatever. And but that was sort of the attitude that, like, I grew up with. Like, depression and anxiety were different, but something like ADHD was very much like, no, you do not have ADHD. You're fine. Like, that's for people with severe, like, it basically, it had to be like super severe in order to be recognized, if that makes sense. And yeah, I think I'm just now sort of realizing that, yeah, it had to be super severe in order for it to be recognized, sort of within our, like, my little cohesive group that, like, I, grew up in. And because that wasn't just the sentiment of my family. That was the sentiment of, like, everybody, like my friends, like, their parents, like, they all, it was like a hive mind collection of, like, that was just the way that it was. I mean, these are also the same people where it was like, if you're not bleeding, barfing, or dead, then you're fine. And if you are bleeding or barfing, it better be in, like, copious quantities. Otherwise, you're fine, kind of a thing. And, that's just how it, kind of how, like, the general consensus was, that I grew up in. It wasn't just, like, specifically exclusive to, like, my family. It was not, that was not how it was. That was the general consensus throughout, sort of the area that I grew up in, at least with the people that I grew up with, and their families, and sort of the institutions, even, like, in school. That was sort of the thinking. If it's not severe or acute, then it's like it doesn't apply to you, kind of a thing. And, and so went fast forwarding to a year ago, about a year, 18 months. I can't be exact on that, but like a year to 18 months. It's definitely been at least a year since I was officially diagnosed with ADHD. And I think that because I didn't, like, I had a very short run with drugs, and so it wasn't like something that I used throughout college or anything like that. It was much more, I had a very short run with it, and then I just sort of, like, left them alone, kind of a thing. And I was more focused on, like, other things and trying to, like, get a grasp on on everything else. And, like, the depression and anxiety, that's what I mean by that. And, so when I found out officially, and I, like, took a test and everything, like, they made me take a test, before they would give me medication and stuff like that. I was there. It would be a lie for me to say that I was not slightly infuriated. Actually, it would be a lie for me to say that I was slightly infuriated, because I was not slightly. There was no slight about it. It was very aggravating. Very, very aggravating. It was eye-opening. It was uncomfortable. There was, though, and it would be a lie if I didn't say this part too, there was a part of it that, was validating, because ever since that drug dealer told me that, it had always been sort of a creeping suspicion in my mind. It had always kind of like hung in the back of my mind as like, maybe you do, maybe you have this. Do not ask me why I took the word of a drug dealer over like a physician or whatever, or a psychologist, but I did, and I don't know why that specific conversation stuck with me, but it did. And so there was always this sort of creeping suspicion that I had that maybe I do have ADHD, maybe I do have something, like maybe it's not just anxiety and depression that I'm suffering from. Maybe I do have some form of ADHD too. And so when I got the diagnosis, there was a part of me that was like, haha, like I fucking knew it. And then that I fucking knew it turned into I'm fucking furious because I knew this for so long and nothing had been done about it. And I didn't feel like I had been taken seriously. And that was hard for me to come to grips with, especially when we're talking about years and years of my life where it's like, well, what could have happened if, I had been treated for this, earlier, not necessarily. Like, I'm not saying that I needed to be treated for this when I was, like 5 or 6 years old. I'm saying, like, what would have happened if I had been treated for this, even when I was in college? Like, what if I had known? And because I haven't finished college yet. I'm actually gonna go back to school in the fall, and a lot of that stems from the fact that I think. Not only do I think, but I feel like I have a better understanding and a better grip, and a more stable situation where I can actually be able to do what I need to do. And I don't know what my life would have been like if, I had been treated earlier. Would I have been able to finish school earlier? Would I have been able to focus more? Would I have been, all these what ifs, all these shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And I know it does no good to sort of look back and see, because there's no way to see. There's no way to know any of those things. And sort of the past is the past and you can't change it. All you can do is what you can do now with what you have, kind of a thing. It still would be a lie, though, if I said that those thoughts didn't occur to me, because they have. And, I don't know. I just simply don't know what would have happened, what could have happened, what should have happened. All I know is that I got diagnosed with ADHD, and when I was diagnosed, I felt a certain type of way. And there was a lot of anger and frustration when I was diagnosed. There was relief. There was relief and validation that occurred as well, but there was so much frustration. And I can't say that I've completely let all of that go just yet. I'm not fully in a place of acceptance with that yet. And mainly, but I am kind of excited about it. I am kind of, there is a little bit of like, what are the possibilities now kind of a thing. And so that's a little bit exciting. Excuse me. So that's kind of exciting. I don't know. I am excited for the future and to see what it holds now that I have, like, I feel like I have a better grip on it. It's it's just um I'm taking it slow. I'm taking it sort of at a snail's pace because that's what I need to do right now, I think, is take it as slow as humanly possible, as slow as I can manage it, and, you know, and that kind of thing, because it is new to me and I'm still learning about it. I have absolutely no idea, you know. Um, I've got zero clue, you know, about what this means. I'm still learning. I just, and we talk about this a little bit next week, in the episode next week about ADHD, with Tim from from the 22 Minutes show. I'm really excited for you guys to listen to that interview. But he was telling me about something that I had no knowledge of. It's called pressured speech, and we talk about it more next week, but that's I I'm still learning. There's so much about this diagnosis of being neurodivergent, um, that I just don't know or understand yet, and because I am scared, to sort of find out all of these different things about me, like, but I'm think I'm much more excited because to me it feels like, okay, now I know, and now I can figure out kind of what I need to do in order to manage this, because this is going to be something that I deal with for the rest of my life, um, and B, what can I live with, kind of a thing. How do I begin to learn to live with this diagnosis, in conjunction with my other diagnoses? And yeah, it's a scary but exciting process. And I think the scary part is the overwhelm is also the overwhelming part, because that's the part where it's like I don't even know where to begin. I don't really know where to start, um, with my diagnosis, other than just like reading materials and articles and, scientific papers and those kinds of things. It's just with the ADHD, I tend to latch on to one idea, and then but then, so once I latch onto this one idea, I want to understand everything about that one idea. Unfortunately, that one idea generally is comprised of a bunch of other ideas that are older, and that means that I have to do more research, which means I get very distracted by that other research, and then I have to like go back and forth and back and forth, and yeah, it's a whole thing. But we're learning, we're figuring it out, we're getting there. Like I said, it's a slow process for me. It's, um, you know, I, I thought that I would feel lonely, which is weird. I don't know why I thought that. I think that a lot of that stems from the fact that, like, the depression part of it and the loneliness of depression, and it can feel like, you're the only one, um that's like feeling these things, and that's the depression part of it. And I know that when I got my diagnosis for depression at a very young age, that loneliness just sort of got exacerbated when that came down, the pike to me. And I didn't really get that when I got my ADHD diagnosis. And I think there was a little bit of shock in there for me. I do think I know there was a little bit of shock in there for me, because I didn't feel that pang of loneliness didn't resonate or didn't hit me really when I got my ADHD diagnosis. And I don't really know why that is. I don't know if that's because I know so many people that have an ADHD diagnosis, and it almost kind of felt like, hey, I'm in the club too, kind of a thing. Or what it was. I don't know, but I did not feel that loneliness. And I'm grateful. I'm very grateful. Oh my gosh. I'm so grateful that I didn't feel that overwhelming wave of loneliness like you get with depression or even anxiety too. I don't know, I think it's just a little bit interesting that I didn't really feel that loneliness when I got my ADHD diagnosis. I don't know why that is. It's a little bit weird. But I'm weird. So that's fine. I also don't know. See, and that's why it's so new, is like, I don't even know what that means. Like, I don't really know what any of that means. That, okay, so you have ADHD. Great. What does that mean? Does that just mean that like it's so much more, I'm finding out, than just not being able to like focus on stuff, like all these little like idiosyncrasies and like things that I just sort of chalked up to me being me. Turns out, no, it's a symptom of my ADHD. Yeah, turns out I'm actually just like 9, trauma responses, sewn together to make a person. And one of those trauma responses is, my ADHD diagnosis. And little things like, not just that I'm not able to focus, but like forgetting things. Like I'll forget, like, this is so gross, you guys. It really is. It's so gross. But like, I'll forget to brush my teeth. I really will. I'll just, and it's not because like I'm doing it on purpose. It's not, it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that like, I just deliberately don't want to brush my teeth, or I don't want to brush my teeth, or, I refuse to brush my teeth, or I don't believe in brushing my teeth, or anything like that. Like I legitimately will forget to brush my teeth because I will be like, well, I'll forget that I did it. And that's part of having ADHD. And it's like, oh, yeah, the medication that I'm on a pretty low dose of Adderall. They put me on a very low dose of Adderall. Hold on just a second. I think it is, oh, here we go. I have the bottle in front of me. It is, shouldn't it tell me? It should tell me how much. 15 milligrams of the extended release of Adderall that I am on. And yeah, it turns out that medication, I forget that I take the medication too, to be perfectly honest. Like I did that today. I was like, okay, so I have to take this medication. Okay. And then, so I took it. I did take it. And then literally like 30 minutes later, I was like, did I take that? Oh my gosh, did I take that medication? And then I had to go and count them to make sure that I took them. you know, because I definitely don't want to like overdo it. Like, I don't want to take another one if I didn't already, like, if I like, oh, no. That would be just way too much. I'd be awake forever, and I already have insomnia, so that's not, that would not be helpful. And so it's just like little things like that, that I didn't even realize were part of having ADHD. And I don't know. There are things like that I don't know how I feel about, and it does make me angry sometimes, because sometimes stuff like that will make me angry, because I will be like, well, if I had known all of this sooner, then I could have been working on this. I could have been really working on this like for a while, and like figuring out what I need to do to manage this. And as you can tell, I'm not over it. I'm just simply not over it. And I don't know when I'm going to get over it. Eventually, I hope. Little things. Things like that. Like brushing my teeth, or taking my meds, or, realizing that, I make things called doom boxes. And they're not really doom boxes. I more have like doom piles. And it's almost like one of those things where it's like, once you start to see it in your own life, it's so difficult to unsee. It's so hard to unsee. It's like I've put glasses on that I can't take off. And every time I learn something new about ADHD, I begin to see it like in my own life, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a symptom of my ADHD. Had no idea, didn't realize. Like, I did not realize that creating like my doom piles of things, and oh, by the way, I am very protective of my doom piles. Don't touch my doom piles, because it looks like chaos, but it's really organized chaos for me. And just please don't touch my doom piles. I'll have like a panic attack. But things like that. And I don't know. If you can't tell, I don't know. And I'm frustrated. I hope you can tell that that I'm a little bit excited, though, that I'm like learning stuff about myself. I'm sorry if the frustration is the only thing that's coming through on this. I just, very frustrated. Very frustrated. But I think this is a good place to go ahead and just take a break while I sort of calm down for a second. I'm really sorry. Yeah, we'll just take a break really quick. And when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Thanks for listening. What is up, you guys? I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our sponsor for this episode, Newsly. It's an audio app for iOS and Android where they basically take articles from all over the world and all the trending topics that are on the web at any given moment, and it reads them to you in like a natural voice, like a human being would. It's basically the first time in the history of the internet where the entire web becomes listenable. It's really cool, you guys. They have all different kinds of articles from all different kinds of topics so that you can like stop scrolling and start listening, which I really love. You can follow all the, any topic, all the topics, whatever topic you want to talk about or listen about, from sports, science, Bitcoin, even the Kardashians, like everybody. They have all the latest articles and it reads them to you. So it's super easy. They also have podcasts, which is why I'm talking to you guys about it, because our podcast, along with podcasts from over 50 other countries, are on the app. So that's really, really cool. You can start listening there as well. You can download and use Newsly for free right now at www.newsly.me, or you can use this link in the description. And when you use the promo code P1X1EP0 that will give you a free month of premium subscription to Newsly. So go check it out, you guys. And thank you so much to Newsly for sponsoring this episode. And we're back. And I'm still not over it. Yeah, I'm still pretty angry about it, I think. So this is what we're going to do. Okay. Abigail, what are you afraid of? What am I afraid of? I'm afraid that I won't be able to effectively communicate with other human beings because of this, I guess. Yeah, because, I mean, when I was like a kid or whatever, and like I'm very recently like was able to sort of like get a grip and get a handle on like all of this and like how to effectively communicate with people, with like other human beings. And so I guess I'm afraid that because of this new diagnosis, it's just like one more thing to add to the list of like things that I'm going to have to figure out how to manage for the rest of my life, which can be very daunting. And B, that this is now like one more thing that I also have to figure out how to be able to effectively communicate about with me. And like managing that and figuring all that out. Because like I was never very effective at communicating when I was a kid, when I was younger, because I just didn't, like, I had no emotional regulation at all. Like I could not get a grip on that. It was like, you know, trying to hit the brakes on a car or on like a moving train. Like it didn't work. And so that's very recent too, that I've like begun to figure, oh my gosh, figured it out. No, I have not figured it out. Not even close to figuring it out. I'm like barely there. You know, I've barely scratched the surface. Figured it out. What the hell am I talking about? I have got zero figured out, you guys. Like nothing. So that's good. I mean, I have like a few things figured out. Okay. Yeah, no. I've got like a few things figured out. Anyway, side quest. Yeah, I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid. And so like and so the reason I sort of like bring up like effectively communicating when I was a kid is because like I think that had a lot to do with why I wasn't diagnosed when I was a kid, was because I was not a very effective communicator when it came to like myself. And so, you know, that presents an issue. That presents a problem. And like I said, I'm just now beginning to like figure that out. And I basically like had to learn like how to talk again, like to people, and like with people. And I had to learn, like I had to figure out what the difference was between like talking at someone, talking to someone, and talking with someone. And I had to like go and like figure out what those words meant to me and like all this stuff. I had to like, it was a whole process. It was a whole thing, you guys. But I basically had to like teach myself how to talk to people again. And now it's just like, there's just like this one more thing that, you know, I've got to figure out how to navigate. Good news. I don't have to do it by myself. Thank God. Oh my gosh. Doing this shit by yourself sucks, you guys. Oh, doing it by yourself, not good. Not fun. Not good. It's for the birds. 1 star. Do not recommend. Ugh. I mean, yeah, I do not recommend that at all. Not even close. Yeah, but I don't have to do it by myself this time, which is nice. That feels pretty good. I do recommend that. I do recommend finding somebody that, oh my God, ew, am I crying? I think I'm crying a little bit. Sorry. Did not expect that reaction. What's that about? Oof. I don't know what that's about. And it won't, like, go away. Goodness. Okay, focus. Sorry. I'm scared. Because it's like one more thing I gotta learn about. It's kind of fun though to like learn about it a little bit. I like that part. I don't really mind that part. The learning part. Yeah, that part doesn't bother me very much. And I know I can do it. I'll figure it out. I don't know. We'll figure it out together. It'll be fine. What else am I afraid of with this? I feel like this whole episode is like... It's fine, because the episode is about ADHD, so maybe give you a little bit of a peek behind the curtain there. Sorry, my voice is all gross now because I started crying. Goodness. See, and that's what I mean kind of like by emotional regulation. Like, I wasn't able to like do that before. If that makes sense. Like I wasn't able to do that before. And I think that's good that I'm figuring that part out. Difficult to learn how to do. Especially when you feel things like the way that I do. Not that it's like special or anything, because I do think that like everybody feels things in varying degrees. And so, you know, like for some people it seemed like, even for myself, it seems a little bit ridiculous that I started crying there earlier, and that's okay because it was kind of ridiculous. and just what I mean by that is that like it's not that bad. Like I will figure it out. I'm not doing this by myself. Like it's going to be hard. yeah, it's going to be difficult, and I'm going to have to like be teachable, which I've never been very good at, is being teachable. I have to like that's why I have to like teach myself, is because I've never been very good at just like being teachable. I'm working on it. We're figuring that part out too. See, all these things I got to figure out, and that's why it's like, ugh, now the list is just like so much longer. Just add that one more thing to the list. And it's just a whole situation. And I do think learning about it is good. Like, I want to know more about this. I want to know more about, like, what does this mean? What does this look like? Like, I do find it funny and, like, a little bit interesting about, just, like, learning about these things and, uh, even, like, the little idiosyncrasy kinds of things, like we were talking about earlier. It. Some of them are kind of funny, and some of them are kind of gross, and some of them are kind of ridiculous. Some of them, and we'll have fun with it. We will. We'll have fun with it. We'll figure it out. I do recommend figuring it out together with people. Like, I do recommend that. Yes, 5 stars. Do recommend. Absolutely. Hold on, you guys. I don't know. My brain just like works so fucking weird. I feel like this episode is so all over the place. And it probably is. That's okay. It's a little piece of me. A little part of me. Oh, it's a part of us. Because we're on this journey together, you guys. We're going to figure this out. It's like really bothering me. I don't know why. See, and now I don't know why it's really bothering me. Because I feel like it shouldn't really bother me. And there see what I did there? I should myself. Shouldn't do that. Haha. So funny. Oh. I find myself rather annoying sometimes, which is one of the reasons why I like don't talk to people, is because I even find myself like rather annoying. And I don't want to be annoying. I mean, not that anybody wants to be annoying. Well, actually, there are times when I think it's good to be annoying. Like when you want something done, like that's a good time to be annoying. But I like on a whole, in general, I don't want to be annoying. And so I like don't talk to people. See, and this is why there's a part of me that's like, you're a robot. Like, you're 100% a robot. Because I think about all this kinds of shit. And see, and then my brain, and I just had a complete wild thought about like, oh my God, what if I have children? And what if they have ADHD? Like, the guilt. Because, like, there's nothing I can do. You know what I'm saying? Like at that point, it's genetic. And because I do think that there is a genetic element too. Like, you can have like a genetic predisposition to certain mental illnesses kinds of a thing. Like, I do believe that. And yeah, like, that scares me. Mainly because I know how difficult it is and can be to live with. And so I don't want to put that, like, having that knowledge, I would feel very guilty if, like, we had a child and, like that, like, it just, it's really hard to talk about because it's just, like, very scary because I know how difficult and how much it can suck sometimes. Like, I get it, and I don't want that for other people. but that goes for like all mental illness, you know, like depression, know what that shit's like. Don't want, oh my God, would not wish that. Would, nope. Mm-mm. Couldn't do it. Anxiety, get out. I'm not, no, absolutely not. I'm not fucking wishing that on anybody either. Like, oh my God, absolutely not. And just add it to the list, you know? And having like, and then having a bunch of them together, like, oh, central in one place. Oh, it's like too much energy. It's just too much. Like, gonna explode. Oh, it's too much. It's just, it can feel like that sometimes. It really can. It can feel like just, oh my gosh, it's just too much. It's all too much. I think this is good though, like to talk about it, you know? Because I cannot, there's no way. There's no way I'm the only person that has felt like this before. There's no way. It's not possible. Oh, sorry. There might be a motorcycle in the background. I don't know. I just don't know is really the answer. As I just don't know what's happening. Because, see, now I'm not like angry anymore. I'm just like, I'm like, I'm not really depressed about it. So that's good. We're getting to acceptance. I'll be depressed about it later. Don't worry. But I don't know. I'm glad I found out. I'm very happy that I found out. That is a plus. And I don't know if I would change that either. Like the fact that it did take so long for me to find out. I don't know if I would change that or if I would want to change that now that I'm like actually thinking about it. I don't know. I don't think so. See, now I'm like, I don't think so because it almost kind of came like at the perfect time. Now that I'm like really sitting here and thinking about it, because it was like I'm in a much better place to receive that information. Um, I had found a medication combination that I liked that made me relatively stable, you know, um, low dosage of most of it. And so, most of it, there's two. There at that point there were two. One to sleep and one for the bipolar depression and anxiety. Um, and then, and so like that was good. Like I needed to be sort of like in that place and like in a good mindset where I like was feeling, I needed that. That was good. And then I took the test and then I was really anxious about the test because I didn't realize that it was one of those tests that you couldn't like pass or fail until I was taking the test, but I'm really bad at tests. Luckily it wasn't like multiple choice or anything like that because I suck at multiple choice tests. It was just, there were like shapes and like you had to match stuff and like do colors and stuff like that and like tap on your keyboard. It was a whole thing. It really didn't take that long now that I'm thinking about it either. Like it took maybe 45 minutes, maybe something like that. And then I found out. And then I got put on a very low dose of medication. And then I had like, it's definitely been at least a year since I was diagnosed. And so you know, I really think that I needed that year to kind of like check everything out, make sure everything was like in balance, and like like this combination was gonna work, and like all that kind of stuff. And so like I do think that like all of those things were good, and it was sort of like at the perfect time. Like I couldn't have picked really a better time for that to happen. I guess I'm more just like disappointed that it took this long for like all of those things to occur, like sort of simultaneously. Yeah, that's what it is. I think that's really what it is. Yep, we figured it out. Yep. And so yeah. So on a whole though, good thing, right? On a whole good thing. Like we've named some positives, and we get to learn about it. We get to do that, which is good. I do think it's good. Um it's the word that keeps coming to mind is daunting, but I don't really know how daunting it is because I kind of already know where I want to start, and that's with like I want to find out more about these little like idiosyncrasies. Like, is there anything else that I do that is a symptom or a sign of having ADHD that I didn't know about? And then maybe trying to figure out a way to, well, first we have to decide if we like those things about us or not. Because sometimes what you'll find is that, you know, you'll go on this journey with yourself, and you'll like find little idiosyncrasies like that and about yourself, and then you'll realize that you actually kind of like it about yourself, and that's good. Like that's like that exploration is good, but my point in saying that is that that's like really the first thing that you have to decide is whether or not you like it about yourself. And then once you decide whether or not you like it about yourself, you can decide what to do next. Because if you like it about yourself, then keep it. Like why not? Of course, keep it. And continue to do it or whatever. Like, and you care about it, and so like whatever. But do it. Like that's what you do, or that's what I do. What you do, I don't know what you do. That's what I do. um. So then the other option is, well, if I don't like what if I don't like it about myself? Obviously there's more options than just those two. Those are just like the two big ones that came to mind. Because maybe is always an option. Maybe is 100% always an option. And nobody said you had to decide or know right away, which is always good because sometimes it takes me a while. But anyway. Hold on. I feel like I'm talking a lot. And I feel like I'm kind of talking really fast too. I don't know. See, now I'm like thinking about it too much. Oh my goodness. Anyway. So once we decide whether or not we like it about ourselves, then we can decide what to do next. And like I definitely do not like the fact that I forget to brush my teeth. Or that I forget that I did brush my teeth. Like, I don't like that about myself. Like, I'm trying to be more on top of myself with that. And see, patterns are good for me. Like, so if I get into a pattern with it, then like that's better. Like, I have to do something consistently over the course of like a while. See, and they always say, like, I've always heard, like, in order to make a habit, you have to do it for, like, 21 days or something like that. Or 30 days or something. It's always something like that. And I'm like, I've done that, and it, like, still hasn't stuck. So, you know, that didn't work. So I have to like force myself, and sometimes I have to, and like, so sometimes I'm just gonna be real honest, you know. What I have ended up doing is my husband caught me one time and he was like, that's like the third time you brushed your teeth today. And I was like, okay. So like we had confirmation kind of a thing. And so I just like, so there's always that ends up happening where, you know, I end up going overboard with it, but I'm just trying to like keep myself accountable, you know, if that makes sense to do. And so I just like, that's how I hate to use the word fix because I'm not like it's not broken. It's just not, well, I guess that's the definition of broken. Because what I was going to say it's just not working. And I guess that's the definition of broke. So it is broken. And by that, I just mean like it's not, like I'm not doing what I want to do. Like I'm not doing it how I want to do it. Like I want to brush my teeth. I want to make sure that I brush my teeth at least 2 times a day. But you understand what I'm saying? Oh my gosh, I completely lost my train of thought. I think that's a sign. Okay. I'm going to leave it there. I think that's a sign. But yeah, thank you guys so much for like, I'm so sorry. This was all over the place and I cried. We went on a whole journey together. So I hope that's okay with you guys. Next week will be better because next week we have Tim from the 2010 Minute Show coming on to talk about his relationship with ADHD or our relationship with ADHD. So that'll be good. It's still kind of all over the place, but you guys get it. You understand. Yeah. So if you liked what you heard or you didn't like what you hear, or you think I'm crazy or over emotional, like whatever, it's all good. You can email me and tell me all of those things at manicpixieweirdo@protonmail.com. You can also reach out. The best place to do that is Twitter at @MPWeirdoPodcast, or the Instagram and the TikTok are both the same. They are the_main_weirdo1. You can also find us on Patreon. We're on Patreon, you guys. If you'd like to support this channel, show, all of it, on Patreon, that would be great. There are a bunch of tiers that you can pick from. I'm working on getting some like merch and stuff in the works, but it'll all be there on Patreon. And you can check that out it's just the Manic Pixie Weirdo podcast. And if you can't do that, then please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. Either one is good. Even on like YouTube is great. A thumbs up or a like or a subscribe or whatever you do, whatever you kids do these days. I don't really know. Yeah, just do all the things. And thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. As always, be kind and stay weird. Have a good one.